The Hyundai Kona is a well-liked compact crossover thanks to its small size and affordable price tag. But now for 2024, it's bigger than it used to be and it's more expensive. So the question is that good formula still there? Here you can tell we are looking at the 1.6 liter turbo because it says turbo on it. And yeah, 190 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, and it's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission instead of the 7-speed dual clutch that they had before. And of course, you can also get the base engine, which is a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, and that is mated to a CVT. And these cars are available either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And if you spec the all-wheel drive like this model, then it's going to cost you an extra $1,500, but you'll get that good snow performance. Pulling on the road, little acceleration. It's really not bad. So I also have my buddy Jack here, and Jack, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Jack Fitzgerald. I write for Car and Driver. Just hanging out, testing this here Kona. Yeah, and we're paired up on this, and I mean, so far I'm just doing my first little bit of driving here, but initial takeaways, it's not a fast car, 190 horsepower, right? I mean, it's not really meant to be a fast car. 8-speed automatic here with the 1.6 liter powertrain, which is nice to have. I definitely prefer that over a CVT. We get to do another little squirt of acceleration. And it's actually pretty quiet too. It is, yeah. They said they added some extra, foam padding in the door panels, and it definitely feels a little bit quieter. Yeah, a little bit more sound deadening, so it just makes this an even more pleasant car to drive. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is even true in the marketing materials that Hyundai are putting out, this is a commuter car. That's how they're pushing it. And at the end of the day, I mean, that is the type of thing that people are going to buy this for. So you're not necessarily looking for the most visceral, engaging driving experience. You want a car that just kind of blends into the background and it lets you get places. And yeah, I mean, it's quiet, it's reasonably comfortable. There's nothing about it that jumps out at you, I would say. No, the suspension's been, we haven't hit too many bad roads down here, but it's eaten up most but the worst potholes. I am noticing a little bit of intervention every now and then from the lane keep, which you noticed as well. I mean, my favorite systems are those lane keep systems that you really don't even feel them working, and this one I do notice it jumping in every now and then. Now for fuel economy, your best case scenario is going to be a 2-liter front-wheel drive model. That'll get you 29 city, 34 highway, and 31 combined. But if you have a 1.6 liter all-wheel drive like this model, it's going to drop down to 24 city, 29 highway, and 26 combined. From the exterior, the design is noticeably updated. All of these light signatures and the bodywork on this car in general is more modern and a little bit more aggressive. Here you can see one of this car's most distinct design features. It is this Z that is drawn across the side of the vehicle, and that Z also points up along this same line that's continued here on the pillar. This is also an N-line version of the car, which means it gets some sportier design elements. This isn't a full-on Kona N like we had in the previous model, but you can still see some additional features like this actually rather large wing here on the back, as well as some unique wheels, and it's just got its own special unique bodywork. But there are some Kona elements that remain very familiar. So the layout of the lights here, the way that the fenders are separated from the rest of the body, and also the headlights here being separate from the running light, that is all very Kona, so it's still easy to recognize this car as a Hyundai Kona. Stepping inside, you're greeted with an interior that feels pretty nice, especially considering the segment and what kinds of vehicles this car competes against. This is a higher end trim. It's not the top of the line limited model, but because this is an N-line, it does have some more sporty elements. It's got Alcantara on the seats here, and it's got some red accents and red stitching, which makes this interior just a little bit more interesting. Now, if I fire it up, you can also see that we have a 12.3-inch infotainment screen here in the center with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you also have this 12.3-inch instrument cluster in the center. Good looking screens, they're sharp, high resolution, fairly responsive, and on this center screen, you don't have some of the features that you get in the very top of the line model. So in the very top of the line model, when you turn on the turn signal, you get that blind spot camera. This doesn't have that, but you still get tons of standard safety features and tons of tech. We also have to mention the fact that this car does have hard buttons for the climate controls, and that is huge. That's something that we love to see. A lot of manufacturers are going very minimalist. They're stepping away from having any of these dedicated buttons, but the climate control panel right here is operated like it has been on many cars for a long time. If you get the top of the line limited model, you also get ventilated seats. These ones are just heated, and it's also worth mentioning this key. Now, this is a key style that's becoming common on Hyundai products, and I have to say, while a lot of this interior feels pretty nice to the touch, there are some cheap materials here and there, most of it feels good, but this key is just very light and plasticky and flimsy, which is unfortunate because this is typically going to be the first thing that you interact with anytime you get into this vehicle. Overall, from the driver's seat, you got pretty decent visibility. It's light steering. I mean, it's just an easy car to drive, which I think is what this consumer is going to be looking for. And people that are buying a car like this, they're going to want something that they can just jump in, not really have to think too much about, and get to where they're going. And this is 100% that. It's just an easy car to drive.
What a cornering up here.
Oh yeah, we got a little bit of cornering here, and it is a relatively lightweight car. This more premium all-wheel drive model is closing in on about 3,500 pounds. So, you know, it's not super light because it is all-wheel drive, and necessarily that's just going to add a couple hundred pounds to the vehicle. But it's a small, relatively lightweight car, fairly compact. Wouldn't call it a canyon carver, but you know.
No, but it's definitely more fun than some of the other cars in the segment.
That's very true.
There's more, it's definitely not a sports car, but there's a decent amount of communication from the steering. The chassis is pretty dialed. Kind of throw it into the turns.
And that is a big factor with this car, is especially when you consider the kinds of vehicles that this is competing against, cars like the Trax and the Crosstrek and the HR-V and the Corolla Cross. While this isn't the most engaging car to drive, it is more engaging than a lot of its competition. Your door cards here are just straight black. There's nothing too exciting going on there in terms of color, although you have a soft touch material here around this door handle, but up top it's hard plastics. And I wish that they would have put the soft touch material up here and made the hard plastics be down there, because if you're resting your arm up on this sill, then you're gonna feel that hard plastic. It's not very comfortable. To go in and out of gear on the Kona, you have this stock right here coming off of the steering column. You push it forward for drive, push it back for reverse, and then you press for park. Now, one of the areas that Hyundai has made improvements on this new Kona by making it bigger is in the rear seat room. And I will tell you that it does appear that that's worked fairly well because this car is 6 inches longer than it used to be, and I've got 3 inches by their estimate of extra knee room. Now, part of that is because they've actually made this seat thinner, and so I do appear to have a decent amount of leg room. I'm about 5'10", but even if I was freakishly tall like some of my coworkers like Roman and Tommy and Andre, I wouldn't really have any issues. I think you could be over 6 feet tall, sitting behind someone similar height in front of you, and you wouldn't feel that cramped. Here in the back seat, your passengers also get their own vents, which is a really nice feature to have, and you've got 2 USB-C ports as well. I am personally a big fan of the seat materials here in this N-line version of the Kona. It looks and feels great, and if you look in the back here, you can see, of course, we've got a couple cup holders in the center. Here on this Kona N-Line, you do have to manually open this trunk lid, so it's not the power lid that you get on the Limited, but I would say that that's fine. I think most people can handle opening their own trunk lid. Something that they told us about, and this is actually a pretty smart idea, is that you can place your cargo shade basically right up against the seat. So if you have a taller item that you want to put in the back, you don't have to just chuck that anywhere. You can actually secure it in place here in the trunk. This trunk also has 25.5 cubic feet of space with the seats up, and if you fold them down, you get 63.7 cubic feet. Now, I mentioned that this car is both more expensive and larger than it used to be, and that a big part of the appeal is that this is a small, affordable car. It's about 6 inches longer total, and it's almost $2,000 more expensive than the previous model. That being said, it is still smaller than a lot of its competition in terms of overall length, even though it has grown in all dimensions. And it's not the most affordable thing in this class, but you do get tons of standard features that make this still a really good offering in this segment, which is becoming more and more competitive. And I mean, if it were my money, this would be right there at the top of the list when it comes to cars in this segment to be interested in. Pricing starts right around $25,000. It's $24,100 on their website, but a bit more including destination. And if you want to get this 1.6 liter, it's going to cost you upwards of $30,000. So again, not the cheapest vehicle in this segment, but still a really good option. And if you're in the market for one of these, definitely give one a test drive. If you want to see more content from us, go to alltfl.com, and we'll see you all in the next video.